I know it has been a interesting year, I guess we would call it, from Maui to the Butler game. What's it been like for you?
Oof, it's probably felt like 3 seasons or three or 4 seasons or so. Adam, just so spoiled by the level of play that we've been able to perform the last 2 years, and obviously we haven't played at the same level. We've lost more games to this point in the year than we had obviously all of last year, and then even up until this point in the 23 championship team. So yeah, it's been frustrating at times. At times relieved, that you've been able to steal some games. But it hasn't been the joyride that we've experienced the last 2 years up to this point.
One of the things that I am taken by with the media is the limited amount of basketball questions you get. I know that sounds like very counterintuitive, but I came to the Baylor game. I did something I'd never done before after the game, and I went to the press conference, and I was sitting there with Norlander, and I'm listening to everybody ask you the questions. I finally leaned over and I said, "Is anyone going to ask him a question about basketball?" Like it's all just so narrative driven, and that brings obviously today and this week people are talking about the Butler game and whatever that the exchange with the official. But to me, it's just a microcosm of the fact that there's a reason why you have to cover your mouth when you speak constantly. So, like, what has that been like?
Well, first, Adam, you made the first point. We've had media, we have media that'll come to practice, and they don't watch practice, or they'll come to a workout and they don't watch the workout. They're on their phone. They're trying to be the first to tweet news about a coach getting hired, a coach getting fired, someone going in the portal, an NIL deal. I don't know that they really understand much about the tactics that are actually happening on the court, or the way different coaches lead or motivate, or different styles or different ways of coaching, coaching your team. I think that there's a lot of just people that cover our sport, that are looking for engagements, fan
Mhm.
engagement, by riling up fan bases or criticizing, a coach. I mean, there's, for me, the embarrassment part of getting caught on camera, talking about, my resume as a coach is, the only embarrassment I feel about that would be towards, the coaches, like my fellow coaches. When I coach against Sean Miller this weekend, when I see Sean, I'm going to be embarrassed, like, about what I said to an official, putting myself up on that pedestal. I think, that's the only place that I'm going to feel embarrassed is when I see Coach Izzo, and when I see, Bill Self, and saying something egotistical like that, relative to all the amazing coaches that are just as good or better than me as a coach. But those are the only people that I feel any type of way towards that way. For me, I coach the way I coach. I grew up on Big East basketball when this is how the coaches coached. I grew up on NBA basketball in the 80s and 90s when this is how coaches coached and players played. There was a life or death urgency to how they coached and how they played. For me, my players love playing for me. My fans, my UConn fans, they love the way I coach. And then my resume and my results, speak for themselves relative to championships produced, and putting my players in the highest level of professional sports or professional basketball in terms of people being developed. the people that want to have at me, the super soft, the super soft media people that want to cancel me for being an intense coach. I don't think we need to make sports softer. So yeah, go for it. And then the fans of teams and programs, that wish they were us, that, get joy out of these moments with me on the sideline, then, enjoy that. But, you don't have what we got, which is the banners. And, but if this is your moment right here to mock me on social media for being an intense coach, go for it.
I may be mistaken, and I know you, everybody, media and fans alike, are commenting on this. I think I haven't seen any. I think your fans probably love you more for it. And you have talked about in the past the fit at UConn, and specifically with the fan base, and obviously following in Coach Calhoun. But I also think there's this element of you being relatable to the fan base. If they see someone who's like giving it absolute everything and trying to know when to walk back and when to push forward and when to find like walk that fine line. What do you do to make yourself so relatable to this fan base?
Yeah, I just think for me, Adam, I'm just comfortable, in my own skin. Like I'm just, authentically myself all the time. I never, it's like if if you lie a lot or if you misrepresent yourself to the media, which I think a lot of people do, that have public positions, like now they have to kind of remember to be in character. Whereas I'm an authentic person. I'm obviously I'm obviously flawed. I obviously, make mistakes and, sometimes go too far with how badly I want it. But I'll never be accused of my fan base or the people that have hired me at UConn by not putting every single thing I have into trying to make this program the best it could be, into trying to win the next possession or the next game, to compete for championships. I mean, I pour every single part of myself into the job, and my fans know that. There's also a dark side to that, which is, sometimes you're going to have moments like, like last night, that maybe come across to timid people, that maybe don't make that investment, that may come across, too strong for them to be able to handle. But you can't be a soft person coaching at a place like UConn, not when you're patrolling the sidelines where, Gino Auriemma, Coach Jim Calhoun, two of the greatest to ever do it in basketball. If you're going to coach on the same sidelines where coaching giants have been, you better have an edge to you.
Without question. You mentioned Coach Calhoun. I don't know that anybody's ever asked you this before, but one of the parallels that I see, because I was a manager for Coach Calhoun, and you both have this larger than life persona about you on the sideline. When you walk into a gym, people used to say about Coach Calhoun, when he walks into the gym, everybody knows it. The same is said for you. I think a parallel, though, is when you used to see Coach Calhoun with his family, with his wife, with I believe it was his daughter-in-law who used to work in the office. He turned into a softie like that, and I mean that in a complimentary way. Is How important is your relationship specifically with your wife and your boys in terms of helping you walk that fine line that you've talked about?
Yeah. So, with all of that, Adam, Coach, my relationship with Coach, Coach Calhoun, I hope to, coach in a style that makes him proud. I think he's one of my coaching idols. He's been an incredible mentor. And then our relationship, the amount of time he takes to mentor me, to call me, to text me, to come spend time with the team and the staff and help us get better. I owe him dearly for that. And then, like, I just think, for me, I've got two things in my life that are my biggest and really only priority, and that's, my program here at UConn and my family. My wife Andrea, my two sons, Danny and Andrew. Like, it's my family and it's my team, and that's where all of my focus goes. And those are the two things I love the most in my life. And those are the people that know me the best. I met my wife in college at a time, when I was a little bit of a mess, and that relationship and how she's helped me grow and develop into a better man, has changed my life. And then she knows me the best along with my sons. So, there's a lot of people that give you a lot of advice when you're in a position like mine. I'm really smart when I hear it from my wife and from my sons, because they know me better than anybody in the world.
Speaking of that advice, when you came back from Maui, I think it's safe to say you're not really interested, nor should you be, in the media's advice for how you should patrol the sideline. You did allude to the fact, though, that you had gotten some advice from others. Is that I'm curious, a coach of your stature, who do you go to when you need to hear things or when you're looking for honest feedback?
Yeah, I would say a couple things, Adam. You never, I guess yeah, I had no idea the impact of my actions, especially, when you don't understand the news you're going to create when you have situations, once you've won a couple. And, so, the Maui experience or last night, it's like, I believe some of the criticism is warranted. I think that there's definitely critiques of my behavior at times that deserves a reaction. I think it goes way, way too far. But those are opportunities. I think whether it's calling Coach Calhoun, or I had a conversation with Gino that prior to the Baylor game, that I was in a really bad space, that I don't think if I had that conversation with Seth Greenberg and Gino right before the Baylor game, I'm like, teetering a little bit, and those conversations I had with those guys about, getting myself centered and reprioritizing, the aspects of coaching that really excite you. Just focus on getting the most out of your team right now, Dan. Forget about whether you're the best team in the country right now or will be a national championship contender. Just like you love being a coach, you'll get your team ready for Baylor, and don't look too big picture right now. Just lock in and coach your team. So those guys. But I've got people. Like a Coach Izzo, or my dad. I tell you, people, if they don't like me as a college coach, man, they'd hate my father. It's funny because people regard my dad, obviously a Hall of Famer, and they rave about my father's coaching style. Well, you're watching it unfold with me right now, so maybe they wouldn't like him as much. But I've got people that that I'm always reaching out for, that have always given me great advice. Billy Donovan, I've got my brother, I've got my dad, Nate Oates, who's the current coaches that you talk to compare notes to, and I'm smart enough to use my mentors.
I know you don't get very much of this, but do you mind if I ask you some basketball questions?
Oh, yeah, let's go, man.
Uh, um, about 5 years ago, there was a kind of a belief system in college coaching that you had to choose between being a great offensive rebounding team or a great defensive transition team. One of the things that I don't know that I've heard anyone ask you is how you managed to accomplish both in recent years, because you're one of only maybe we could put Houston and Tennessee in that category, but pretty much there are very few people who are trying to excel in both of those areas.
Yeah, so I think Adam, it's all tied together. Just like how hard we play. The intensity level, that we play at, that I coach at, that our bench, throughout a game shows up with. We're a max effort program. We're a team that we want to be flying around the court, contesting everything, playing like our hair's on fire. Again, that's tied into, the way that I coach is directly related to the things that we're trying to do from an offensive standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, from a rebounding standpoint, from a life or death urgency to being the first to the floor, and just how hard we're going to get after it. So if you spend a ton of time, working on, multiple rotations, your transition defense, if every time that the shot goes up, that you demand your players to crash the glass, for us, like, and we haven't done it as much this year. Maybe it's, just the personnel's a little bit different. But if you attack the offensive glass, and really, it's like a siege. If you're going to the offensive glass, like with incredible authority and desperation, a lot of times that team is not even going to be thinking about pushing it in transition. They're under such duress just to get a defensive rebound that they almost feel like they just kind of survived that siege, and now the last thing they're thinking about is blasting it at you. That's been our calling card, 23 and 24. We've been amongst the best teams in offensive rebounding, and our transition defense has been amongst the best. It's a philosophy about offensive rebounding, but it's also how hard we play, which is also tied to how hard we coach.
There are a lot of teams who have that culture of like extreme competitiveness, who view offensive execution as almost like too much. It's like, hey, we pride ourselves on playing harder than anyone. We've got to simplify things offensively. You guys obviously do not take that approach. And so I wanted to ask you, with regard to the offense, I think maybe the most revealing conversation you've had, ironically, was with JJ Redick, when he was asking about the the various alignments that you could get to various actions with. If you recall that, one of the things that strikes me is the various, let's call it, exits you have from your different actions, the amount of slips, the amount of back cuts, the amount of rejections of a specific screening action. And so, like, is that a call? Is that a read? And when you are, how do you teach kids those nuances when you are also demanding so much else?
Yeah, Adam, and it was, for us, it was just a pain of, the pain of early exits in the NCAA tournament, and coming up short with winning Big East championships that kind of forced us in that direction, away from players just having to bail you out to win games by just incredible individual performances, or just being overly reliant on just strictly your ball screen offense, which, ball screen offense and DHOs and chases, between guards and bigs. I mean, those are a big part of what we do. But obviously the off the ball movements, I think, is what's, made us unique. Even this year, prior to Liam going down, we were number two offense in the country once Liam went out. And that's with not getting anywhere near what we've been getting from offensive rebounding and the transition game. Our half court, stuff, I think, is in execution's been that good. I think it's a lot of terminology that players have to understand. Formations. terminology that makes sense once you really understand it. And then for us, it's being able to make different reads, like when they're chasing you, when they're switching 1 through 4 as opposed to 1 through 5, when they're top blocking screens. When they're in when they're in a deep drop, when they're in a high flat, like it just a lot of it is just like as a coach, it's so much easier. It was so much easier when we were just like an all-out effort team that played elite defense, like we did. I mean, those teams in 21 and 22, they played so hard. Our defense was awesome. Our culture was incredible. Our effort, it was unquestionable. But we were an early exit team because we weren't sophisticated enough offensively to create great shots for our players in pressure moments. When you get to pressure moments in the NCAA tournament, you want to be able to get you want to be able to get great shots for your players, and then they want to have confidence going into these big spots that you're going to get shooters like Jordan Hawkins and Alex Caravan. Um, I'm going to miss people here. Hopefully, Solo Ball, Cam Spencer, Tristan Newton, like those guys had confidence going into games that, like, yeah, they knew they were going to have to go and make plays off script, in transition or at late shot clock, but they'd go into games knowing that our offense is going to work for them, and get them great looks and get them advantages where they can go out and make plays. But it's like transitioning from a coach, like away from like taking time away from like those toughness drills, those extra defensive drills that were kind of like my security blanket, because those things will get you to a point, but you're not winning 6 games in a single elimination tournament versus all different types of defensive looks if you're going to rely on your players to bail you out and just ball screen offense.
Coach, my last question along those same lines is you talk about your personal evolution as a coach. I remember at St. Benedict's, at Wagner, when you first got to Rhode Island, you were maybe known for player development as much as anything. And I wonder, as your system has evolved, how has your player development program had to evolve along with it? Because that's another thing I don't know that I've heard anyone ask you.
Yeah, so just the investment that we make, Adam, with it, that starts like as soon as I could get Braylon Mullins and Darius and Ryba and Natazi here, like these guys will be here June 1, and we'll be going live all summer. We'll go, 8 hard weeks, that are not voluntary. These will be like 8 hard live week this summer of 1-on-1, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, like on ball, off ball, 1-on-1 situational things, like just starting to implement a lot of our offensive concepts, plus trying to develop them as shooters, as guys that can win in space and 1-on-1 situations, as guys whose IQ for the game will grow. They're being able to, to read and anticipate, their ability to, process offensive concepts with how complex the game has gotten, recently. So, and then we also, I think, for NBA teams or for people that are evaluating our players, they know if you get a player from UConn the way at the professional ranks, they know that you're getting a player that's been coached hard, that's been challenged, that's been told no a lot, that's been told that they need to improve a lot. They're being told, by truth tellers on a daily basis, they're being challenged to improve and get better. That's like a mindset that we have in the program. There's a feeling amongst all of us that we never quite feel like we're good enough. And, that's just a part of our daily grind and culture and who we are. And, I think that that's just a healthy habit. and maybe a healthy perfectionism issue that we have here that we help our guys get better from a skill standpoint, but we also, we keep them hungry because we're constantly challenging them here.
Coach, thank you so much for spending this time. I know you are in high demand to say the least, and I really appreciate. I will leave you with this just to wrap up on the Connecticut fan base. My 12-year-old daughter said to me today. She said, "You're having Dan Hurley on your show," and I said, "Yeah, honey." She's like, "You didn't tell me you know Dan Hurley." I said, "Honey, I know a lot of coaches. I know, but you didn't tell me you knew Dan." So this is going to make me a big hit in my household. So thank you very much. Again, just really appreciate you making the time.
Well, Adam, tell her, yeah, I mean, the kids especially, they love me. They love, they're entertained by me. And you can also tell her that I'm not really going to be doing a whole lot more shows. So, the shows that I'm going to go on are going to be, with people whose basketball I respect. And, I respect your basketball. So it was great to be on the show, man.